Paul Heimowitz. I'm the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Pacific Region. We're here at Clackamas Park, right at the confluence of the Clackamas River and the Willamette River, where there's a pretty active salmon fishery right now. Rapid response planning is a critical part of the overall strategy. It's a second line of defense. Certainly our first goal is prevention, but we need to be ready in case we do discover zebra or quagga mussels in the Columbia Basin and have a plan of attack so we're not trying to deal with this off the top of our heads. And just like in any other emergency, and this truly would be an emergency situation, it's important to know who's responsible for responding. Even though we have limited tools to respond to zebra mussels, making sure we have our strategies ready to go. When quagga mussels showed up in the Colorado River Basin, they really didn't have a plan on how to respond. And we have the opportunity to learn from that. And in fact, that's what led to developing a rapid response plan for the Columbia Basin so that we can be more prepared. And in fact, we now have begun to have response exercises, just like we would do for fires or earthquakes. So when quagga mussels showed up in Lake Mead, there really wasn't a response plan in place, and they had to react without a lot of thought in advance. We have the opportunity to learn from that situation, and in fact, we have developed a rapid response plan for the Columbia Basin, so we know who's responsible for notifying agencies, how we're going to organize for the response, what we might do for initial containment, and hopefully help minimize any damage that occurs by being able to respond quickly, and in some cases maybe even have the opportunity to eliminate a population that's just starting out. If zebra or quagga mussels were to arrive to the Columbia Basin, it would become everyone's problem quickly, and similarly we need to have a lot of cooperation and collaboration if we're going to respond successfully to an invasion. When we developed our rapid response plan, it was very important for us to try to bring in all the stakeholders together to agree on what would be our methods for trying to at least contain a population of mussels if they were discovered. So if quagga or zebra mussels were to establish in the Columbia Basin and really take over in the ways we've seen them do in other parts of the country, given their track record, we could expect some very serious problems for our native fish, and particularly for steelhead and salmon that are already struggling and maybe on the brink of real population collapse. This could be the last straw to have zebra or quagga mussels come in the way that they're known to alter the food chain and change aquatic habitats. So the ability of zebra and quagga mussels to completely transform aquatic habitats would be a huge problem for just even fish passage alone, changing the fish passage facilities to the point that they're not usable by these fish, changing the habitat so that the food that they depend on is no longer available. Any one of those could be devastating for our native salmon and steelhead. So the Fish and Wildlife Service largely plays a coordination role in zebra and quagga mussel management in the Northwest, and that role is really important because we have limited resources and so many different avenues that require work for preventing zebra mussel invasion, early detection, developing rapid response capacity, and it's critical that states, other federal agencies, tribes, the private sector are all working together and all on the same page. So what we try to focus on with the Fish and Wildlife Service is assisting other organizations. For example, we provide aquatic invasive species grants to states to develop their program, helping promote research, such as research we've helped fund to look at the most effective ways to decontaminate boats, bringing together different stakeholders in meetings and forums so we can come up with common strategies rather than working at cross purposes. That kind of collaboration and coordination is going to continue to be very important if we're going to seal the holes that might allow zebra quagga mussels to enter the region otherwise.